Hello all, and welcome back to Time to Dice Character Creation, where we make your favorite fictional characters in Pathfinder and Starfinder 2nd Edition. Today we're once again returning to the MCU to take a look at everyone's favorite martyr, Agent Philip J. Coulson. Coulson began his journey in the MCU as the liaison for the Avengers, and the resident everyman. Whereas everyone else in the Avengers Initiative had either a super soldier serum or a billion-dollar suit of armor, Coulson instead relied on his silver tongue and unshakable will to do the right thing. Unfortunately, a silver tongue doesn't do much against an Asgardian scepter through the heart. His death, however, united the Avengers, transforming them from a ragtag group of heroes into a team capable of saving the world countless times. Many would have considered that a fair trade, but director Nick Fury had other plans. Using S.H.I.E.L.D.'s vast resources, Fury brought Coulson back, gave him a new team, and sent him back into the field. Coulson and his crew survived the collapse of S.H.I.E.L.D. and eventually took on the role of the new director. Together, they protected the world from threats ranging from Hydra to time-traveling androids. So beware of spoilers, and without further ado, let's get started. So, what do we need to make the Son of Cole? Before anything else, we need to be a competent S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. More often than not, that means sneaking in, retrieving the 084, and getting back to headquarters with the bad guys none the wiser. At least, that's the plan. Next, we take a group of highly specialized heroes and forge them into a team. Or better yet, a family. And then lead that team against threats far beyond their pay grade. And finally, Coulson has a knack for dying, so we need to make sure that won't be too much of an inconvenience. Coulson is a human, so we're going to go with the human ancestry. That gives us 8 hit points, medium size, and an attribute boost to both dexterity and wisdom. We also get a 25-foot movement speed. We'll take the versatile heritage to grab the Die Hard general feat, which increases our maximum dying value from 4 to 5. We don't tend to stay dead, but coming back is still a whole ordeal, usually with a lot of tears, so we'd rather just avoid that entirely. For our background, before Coulson became the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., he was often chosen to be the first point of contact with potential threats, like Tony Stark and Thor. So we're going to go with the diplomat background. As a diplomat, we gain an attribute boost to wisdom and charisma, as well as training in diplomacy and tarot lore. Finally, we pick up the group impression skill feat, letting us deliver one big speech to the whole team rather than having to carve out time for one-on-ones with everyone. When we make an impression, we can compare our diplomacy check results to the will DCs of up to 10 creatures we speak to, rather than just the one. This limit increases to 20 creatures if we're expert in diplomacy, 50 if we're master, and 100 if we're legendary. Envoys are Starfinder's leadership class, so we'll be going with that. As an envoy, we get 8+ constitution hit points per level, training in perception, and are expert in reflex saves for dodging gunfire, as well as will saves for resisting mind-altering tech like the framework. We also get plenty of skills, including intimidation to threaten foes with overwhelming force, computers to search through S.H.I.E.L.D. files for relevant intel, occultism because we've dealt with more than our fair share of alien threats, medicine for basic first aid, society because Coulson's a history buff, stealth, deception, and thievery, the standard spy skill package, and survival for when an extraction goes sideways and we need to find our own way back home. Coulson can use any simple and martial weapons, which is perfect since he has a knack for picking up alien gear. And lastly, we can wear up to light armor. But it's important to remember that it has to have the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo on it. That's non-negotiable. For our attributes, we start with 0 in strength. Coulson is pretty much the only guy in Marvel without some level of super strength. Dexterity is at a +1. He's an alright shot, but definitely nothing to write home about, especially when he's paired with guys like Hawkeye. Constitution is also at a +0. Yes, he always comes back, but that just means he's always dying. Intelligence clocks in at a +1. Coulson is a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, so he usually knows more about a given subject than your average Joe, but he's never the team brain. That role goes to Stark or Simmons. Wisdom's at a +3. Perhaps his best power is being one of the best judges of characters out there. He also has a good head on his shoulders, even when going up against Avenger-level threats. And finally, charisma comes in at a +4. Leadership requires either strong communication skills or the ability to command your team into following your orders when those skills fail, and Coulson has shown both in abundance. As an envoy, we need to pick up a leadership style. Coulson, at the end of the day, is a leader who's comfortable talking his way out of situations, but his team usually tries to go in unnoticed first, talk second, and blast their way out as a last resort. As a result, we're going with the From the Shadows style, which gives us the Assurance skill feat and Stealth. Whenever we would roll a stealth check, we instead treat the roll as if we rolled a 10 plus our proficiency modifier, ignoring any other bonuses or penalties. Sneaking around is pretty much drilled into all S.H.I.E.L.D. agents at the Academy. Level 1 envoys get directives, orders we can give that grant our allies benefits if they follow them. All envoys get 'em, but we also gain a unique directive based on our leadership style, in this case, coordinated ambush. With get 'em, we choose an enemy within 60 feet that we can see. Until the start of our next turn, we and our allies gain a +1 status bonus to attack rolls against the target. If we spend 2 actions on this directive, we get the lead by example benefit, allowing us to strike a target and then add our charisma modifier as statuses to the damage roll. Whether we hit or miss, all damage rolls against that target before our next turn also gains a +1 status bonus to damage. And with coordinated ambush, we designate an enemy and an ally within 60 feet, and if the ally starts their turn hidden, undetected, or unnoticed by the target, that target is off guard to them until the end of that turn, rather than until they become observed. If we lead by example, we can hide or sneak as part of the directive, and we can strike the target as a reaction the first time our chosen ally attacks them before our next turn. Finally, at this level, we also get an ancestry feat and a class feat. For our class feat, we'll take cooperative nature, reflecting Coulson's willingness to assist his allies. This gives us a +4 circumstance bonus on all checks to aid. For our class feat, we're taking Quip, because come on, it's an MCU character. We have to take Quip. When an ally within 30 feet damages a creature with a strike, we can immediately attempt to demoralize that creature as a reaction, turning our ally's blow into the perfect opening for a one-liner. At level 2, we'll pick up the Size Up class feat. We can spend time observing, researching, or networking to designate a creature as our asset. Once designated, we gain a +1 circumstance bonus to deception, diplomacy, intimidation, and perception checks involving them, plus a +1 to recall knowledge about them. When using the 1-action Get 'em on an asset, we gain the same benefits as the 2-action version. We can keep a number of assets equal to our charisma modifier, replacing old ones if we exceed that limit. Think of it like updating your contacts list, just with a little more espionage. We also gain the No Cause for Alarm skill feat. When a fight spills out into a public area, we can prevent a mob from forming. We can attempt a diplomacy check against the will DC of frightened creatures within 10 feet. On a success, their frightened values decreases by 1. On a critical success, it decreases by 2. Regardless of the result, each affected area is then immune to this effect for 1 hour. At level 3, envoys get adaptive talent. The thing about being a shield agent is that, no matter how much they drill into you at the academy, nothing can truly prepare you for everything you'll see on the job. So quick learning is a must. This feature lets us temporarily learn new skill feats each day. During our daily preparations, we pick one skill feat we qualify for and learn it until the next day. At 9th and 15th level, we gain an additional temporary skill feat. Temporary feats from this ability can be used to meet the prerequisites for other temporary feats gained the same way. We also get the Wise to the Game feature at this level, giving us a +1 status bonus to our perception DC against feint, lie, and creative diversion attempts, and a +1 status bonus to our will DC against emotion effects. By this point, Coulson has seen every Hydra trick in the book, and built up counterplays for most of them. Finally, we'll take the Toughness General feat, granting us additional hit points equal to our level, and reducing the DC of any recovery checks by 1. This will definitely keep us from dying again. Maybe. Probably not. Look, in the Marvel Universe, death is more of a speed bump anyway. Sometimes you don't have time to research your target ahead of time, so at level 4 we'll pick up Acquire Asset. We make a strike against a creature that isn't our asset. On a hit, that creature becomes our asset as if we had taken the time to research them with Size Up. And on a critical hit, we can immediately attempt a recall knowledge check about the target. It's still usually better to do your homework ahead of time so we don't waste that sweet action economy, but this ability can be a lifesaver if a surprise boss fight that we didn't plan for pops up. Or as Coulson likes to call it, Tuesday. For our skill feat, we're taking Crowd Control. We gain a +2 circumstance bonus to diplomacy checks against crowds. The first time each round we stride into a square containing a crowd, we can attempt a DC 20 diplomacy check, adjusted by the GM if needed, to move the crowd aside. On a critical success, the crowd disperses from all adjacent squares as we move. On a success, it disperses from the squares we enter, and on a failure, the crowd doesn't move, but we can continue moving. And on a critical failure, the crowd resists and disrupts our stride. Level 5 envoys gain Perception Expertise, Weapon Expertise, and Improvised Mastery. Once per day, when we're about to attempt a skill check with a skill we don't have Mastery Proficiency in, which is all of them, we don't unlock Mastery Proficiency for 2 more levels, and haven't rolled yet, we can rely on our instincts to gain Mastery Proficiency for that check. Coulson always has an ace up his sleeve. We'll also pick up the Confident Actualization Ancestry feat. Once per day, when we're about to make a saving throw or skill check, our confidence allows us to roll it twice and take the better results. Between these two abilities, failing skill checks should be a thing of the past, at least once per day. At level 6, we'll pick up the Change of Plans class feat. When the target of our Get 'em directive is reduced to 0 hit points, we can immediately direct our allies at a new target, letting us use Get 'em again against a new target, but only the one action version, meaning we don't get a free hit point. No plan survives contact with the enemy, and sometimes that's because our team did better than expected. We'll also take the Blend In skill feat, which is pretty ironic considering how memorable Coulson is to the Avengers. When among at least 10 other creatures, we may roll a society check instead of a stealth to avoid notice during exploration. In a settlement, we can also use society instead of deception when impersonating a non-specific individual. Level 7 envoys gain fortitude expertise and weapon specialization, as well as leader's confidence, which grants us the Steal Yourselves directive. We inspire our allies to prepare for incoming damage. Allies within 60 feet who can sense us can spend one action to brace for impact, gaining temporary hit points equal to our charisma modifier plus half our level for 1 minute. If we spend 2 actions, not only do we brace for impact ourselves, but any ally who braces for impact before the start of our next turn also gains a +1 status bonus to saving throws against damage-dealing effects for 1 minute. For our general feat, we get pretty much the most Coulson-esque feat ever, Numb to Death. Having faced death before, we are hardened against its effects. The first time each day we regain hit points while dying, we get a circumstance bonus equal to our level to the hit points regained. And we do not gain or increase the value of the wounded condition. At level 8, we showcase Coulson's skills at reading people with the Saw It Coming feat. When we are about to roll initiative, we can read our foe's demeanor, body language, and ticks to gain an advantage. Not only do we gain a +1 circumstance bonus to our initiative roll, but we can immediately take 1 action to interact to draw a weapon, step, or stride, putting us a step ahead of any Hydra agents trying to turn us into Swiss cheese. We also get the skill feat Shameless Request. We can use our brazenness and charm to minimize the consequences of a request. When we make a request, any DC increases for outrageous requests are reduced by 2, and a critical failure becomes a simple failure. While this prevents us from lowering a target's attitude through requests, repeated requests can still wear on them over time. So maybe wait a bit before asking Captain America to sign your other cards. We can use our brazenness and charm to minimize the consequences of a request. At level 9, we upgrade our Cooperative Nature feat to Cooperative Soul. As long as we are at least expert in the skill we are aiding in, we literally cannot fail, removing any limits on how often we can assist our friends. Level 9 also unlocks Envoy expertise and Hidden Agenda, letting us keep our secrets locked up even against magical intrusion. When a creature would critically succeed at a sense motive check against us, or on a skill check to gather information or recall knowledge about our secrets, their result is reduced to a success. Likewise, if we critically fail a saving throw against an effect that would read or reveal our thoughts, emotions, or intentions, we instead treat it as a failure. At level 10, we'll pick up Group Coercion, allowing us to tell an entire race of aliens that Earth is not theirs for the taking, all at once. We can coerce multiple people simultaneously, comparing our intimidation checks to the will DC of up to 5 targets instead of just 1. Each target can have a different degree of success. This number increases to 10 targets at Expert, 25 at Master, and 50 at Legendary Proficiency. We'll also take the Smooth Diversion class feat. We're skilled at quickly and subtly diverting attention. When we succeed at creating a diversion, we can immediately sneak or step as a free action. If we don't succeed, creatures only notice our trickery on a critical failure. Otherwise, they assume the diversion was simply part of our normal behavior. At level 11, Envoys gain Perception Mastery and the Resolve feature, increasing our will saves to Master and turning successful will saves into critical successes. We also get Aximus Awakening, replicating various upgrades Coulson acquires throughout the series with 2 cantrips and 2 spells from the Arcane spell list. For cantrips, we'll pick up Shield, so the Director of Shield can have a shield that he can raise to increase our AC. It also lets us shield block to reduce incoming damage, as well as Figment, letting us throw down a hologram to confuse or distract our foes. For our rank 1 spells, we have Shocking Graphs, good old taser hand technology. We charge up a prosthetic hand and make a melee spell attack against the target within touch range. On a hit, the target takes electricity damage. If the target is wearing metal armor or is made of metal, we gain a +1 circumstance bonus to the attack roll, and the target also takes persistent electricity damage. We also have Skim Data, letting us use our LMD body to read code. We touch an object and focus on the dataset it contains to quickly understand its gist and to locate the most relevant sections. If the dataset is in a language we don't know or on a computer we can't access, the spell fails. We can also cast the spell as part of a research activity, turning a critical failure into a failure. At level 12, we pick up the Hurry feat, letting us get our team moving faster. We can urge an ally to act more swiftly, One ally within 30 feet who can sense us becomes quickened for 1 round, using the extra action to interact, step, or stride. The ally is then temporarily immune to hurry for the next 10 minutes. You ever wonder why in all the spy shows, when the base is about to explode, there's always that one guy yelling, "Let's go, go, go"? Well, this is why. Because fighting fair isn't always an option when saving the world, we're also taking the dirty trick skill feat. This lets us use underhanded tactics to hinder a foe, such as hooking their bootlaces, pulling their hat over their eyes, or loosening their belt, making a thievery check against the target's reflex DC. On a critical success, the target is clumsy 1 until they use an interact action to remove the impediment. On a success, the same effect applies but ends automatically after 1 round. And on a critical failure, we fall prone as our attempt backfires. At level 13, Envoys gain light armor expertise and weapon mastery, as well as the tactician feature, giving us an additional reaction each round that can be used on one of our Envoy reactions. We also get the incredible improvisation ancestry feat, granting us a +4 circumstance bonus to a skill check that we are untrained in once per day. With Coulson's wide array of experiences and ability to think on the fly, there's basically nothing he's truly untrained in. At level 14, we'll pick up Down to the Wire, letting us pull off 2 action directives with our last action. Coulson has rewritten the laws of space, time, and death. Do you really think he wouldn't do the same with the rules of the action economy? We'll also take the full senses skill feat, allowing our stealth modifier to hide us even from special senses, like scent or heat vision, making us basically invisible to everyone except those with plot armor. At level 15, Envoys gain Reflex Mastery, Greater Weapon Specialization, and Legendary Improvisation, which upgrades our Improvise Mastery feature to let us roll any skill check with Legendary Proficiency once per day. We also get a General feat, and we'll take Incredible Initiative, giving us a +2 bonus to all initiative checks. Good luck getting the job on a guy who has literally made deals with the devil and lives to tell the tale. At level 16, we take the Get Them class feat, because sometimes there's more than one guy that needs to get got. When we use the Get 'em directive, we can choose any number of enemies within range to grant the attack boost against. For our skill feat, we'll pick Terrified Retreat, allowing us to send foes fleeing when we critically succeed on a demoralized check against a creature lower level than us. Coulson may not look like the scariest guy in the room, but when you realize everything he survived, you start to doubt that you can bring anything new to the table. At level 17, Envoys gain Greater Resolve, increasing our will saves to Legendary, turning critically failed will saves into failures, and halving the damage that we take from failed will saves. We also gain Incredible Senses, increasing our Perception proficiency to Legendary, and Inscrutable, making it nearly impossible for others to discern our plans. When a creature would critically succeed or succeed on a perception check to sense motive, or on a skill check to gather information or recall knowledge about our secrets, their results become a failure. Likewise, if we critically fail or fail a saving throw against an effect that would read or reveal our thoughts, emotions, or intentions, we instead treat that as a success. All of this stacks on top of the Too Stubborn to Die ancestry feat. Once per day when we would die, we instead pull ourselves back from the brink, regaining consciousness through sheer willpower. If we have the dying or unconscious conditions, we lose them, and if we're at 0 hit points, we instead have 1 hit point. However, our wounded and doomed conditions each increase by 1, as a result of us cheating death once again. At level 18, we pick up Extend Directive, allowing us to keep our orders fresh in the minds of our allies. When our turn begins and we issued a 2-action directive on our last turn, we can repeat our orders with a single word or gesture, immediately issuing a 1-action version of the directive from the previous turn as a free action. We'll also take the Legendary Negotiation skill feat, letting us negotiate rapidly in tense situations. We can make an impression and then request that our opponents stop their current activity to engage in talks. We take a -5 penalty to our diplomacy check, and the DC is generally the creature's will CC, though the GM may adjust this as needed. Some creatures may be unable to stop regardless of intent, and even those who agree to parley might later reject our arguments and resume attacking. At level 19, we gain Light Armor Mastery and the Silver Tongue feature, allowing us to reroll a Deception, Diplomacy, or Stealth check once per day per skill, and use the better result. We also take every spy's favorite general feat, Half-Truths. This lets us craft our words to mislead others without ever speaking an outright lie. We can make a request using Deception instead of Diplomacy, or attempt to lie using Diplomacy instead of Deception. And finally, at level 20, we pick up the Legendary Stealth skill feat, allowing us to sneak and hide even without cover or concealment. And the True Leader class feat, having worked with our team long enough, we can convey orders through a glance, a single word, or a subtle gesture. Once per turn, we can issue a 1-action Envoy directive as a free action, and that directive does not count against the normal limit of 1 directive per round. And that's how we build Phil Coulson in 2nd edition. From the everyman shield agent who brought the Avengers together, to the legendary leader capable of saving the world with his own team. This build excels at everything from bending action economy to sneaking past the apocalypse incarnate. Along the way, we've captured his silver tongue, unshakable will, and uncanny ability to pull the team back from the brink. Sometimes literally. Whether you're sneaking, negotiating, or rallying your allies with a single glance, this build lets you play Coulson exactly as he deserves. Clever, resourceful, and always one step ahead. So grab your shield, check your dossiers, and remember, sometimes the world's greatest heroes need a human who just refuses to quit. If you like this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you put below what you would like to see next. Until next time, keep rolling high, and we'll catch you in the next one.